So listen, chat. I have the #1 furry of the competitive community here with us today.
Okay.
All right.
Bro. Okay.
Listen, dog. That's your favorite skin. That's your main skin. Okay. That's what you chose to brand yourself with. I'm just saying. Before we begin, brother, I wanna kind of lay down some groundwork and explain to chat kind of like the goal of today's stream. So you guys know my feelings on this season. You know where I'm coming from. I'm enjoying it. All my friends are enjoying it. However, I don't want to live in an echo chamber. It's very obvious that there's a lot of people frustrated with this season, and it's primarily coming from the competitive community. Now, rather than sitting here and being like, oh, well, the competitive players are just upset and they can't adapt to the meta and all that, I want to make sure that I'm challenging my bias. And although Rylick and I might disagree on a lot of things today, I want to get close to the truth and kind of get a better understanding of where competitive players are coming from. But that also doesn't mean I'm not going to provide some pushback to certain things. I think that there are certain areas where the competitive community gets hung up in their mentality and their philosophy when it comes to Fortnite. However, I don't think they're completely unjustified in what they're saying, right? When you see an entire collective or a good majority of a certain collective of people having a particular viewpoint or share a particular viewpoint or opinion on something, you have to stop and look and ask yourself, why is that? Why do they feel the way that they do? Why are they so passionate about this? Why is there such a disparity between competitive and casual players? So what we're going to do today is we're all going to sit here and we're going to test our bias. I hope that there's also some competitive players out there that'll weigh in and chat and give their 2 cents. I want this to be an interesting yet respectful conversation. So with that being said, Riley, how are you feeling about all this, man? Are you excited to kind of lay down your framework for this season?
Yeah, I'm surprised anyone likes this season, bro. This is the worst season of all time.
Oh man, I can't wait
I
to
think this
disagree
is
with you on
worse
that.
than Primal. I think this is worse than Primal. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So listen, before we get to that, I want to ask you, I want to kind of tell people who you are, what kind of content you make, and what season you started playing Fortnite.
So I played my first game back in like pre-season 1, season 0, like a few days after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't start playing it consistently until season 3. So I got all like the season 3 stuff, and I became like a consistent player, and I've stuck with it. Like most of my friends quit, but I've stayed playing this game for the last, what, how long has it been?
7 years, pretty much.
7 years, something like that. Yeah, it's since the very beginning. And I'm not like, I don't always play comp, but I have a very like competitive mindset when it comes to playing this game. And I don't know, man, like they're in such a hard spot because competitive players, you have to appeal to them, and you also have to appeal to the non-competitive players because both make so much money for the company. They can't just appeal to one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to try and balance it out.
Let me ask you this question. Do you play builds or zero builds primarily?
I'm a builds player. I mean, I can play zero build, but I've stuck with builds since the very beginning.
How much competitive builds did you play last season?
Last season, not a whole lot, not as much as I wanted because my duo was never home.
Okay.
I would have played a lot more, but he was just like never on to play, and it's just all duos. So
why don't you like playing solos builds?
I don't like playing solos in any game I play unless it's Minecraft. I don't know. It's just really boring for me playing alone.
Okay.
Even if I'm like way better than someone else, I just don't like playing solos.
What's the highest rank you've ever been in competitive Fortnite?
Unreal.
You got an Unreal? Okay. Have you only done that once or multiple times, or?
I was Unreal in OG. I was Unreal in Chapter 5 Season 1. And then last season, I mean, my duo wasn't on, so I hardly played. I was only champion. We were gaining a lot whenever we played, but we only played a handful of times, so I only got to champion.
Right. But I guess the point that I'm trying to get to and what I want everybody to understand is that you are a competitive player. You're good at the game. You understand. You understand Fortnite, and you've also been playing you've been playing since the game came out. So you have
the nerd emojis. I'm getting nerd reacted in your chat, dude. No, man.
Hey, bro, listen. If you're gonna come here, you're in the gauntlet. Okay, you're gonna roast you a little bit. All right. I want to make something very clear to Rylick as well as my audience. My interactions with people in the competitive community has not been very good. I'm just gonna be straight up. There was Loot Station and I were actually looking at a video clip yesterday, but for those who were here back in the day when this happened, last year, January, I made a video talking about my opinions on competitive Fortnite at the time. I was talking about how the loot pool was really boring. This was also during the time when Booga got dropped from his team, and I had a competitive player come into my chat and say I didn't know what I was talking about, all this other stuff. I actually invited him on stream to have a conversation, and the conversation just went south very fast. I believe I could have handled that situation better. There was no middle ground that was being had, and basically the conclusion of this person was that because I'm trash at the game and I'm not a part of the competitive community, I'm not a competitive player, I can't have an opinion on this, I don't know what I'm talking about. When I think of competitive Fortnite players in general, not all of them, but when you think of like the average like Fortnite kid that sweats and grinds out and cranks 90s all day, this is the mentality of the kind of person that you think of.
Yeah. Who was that comp player that you brought on that you said you didn't have a good conversation with? Who was
he?
That?
He was some no name. He was just upset at he was saying that a video I made was very misleading. He wasn't like a content creator or anything. The reason why I'm saying all that is I want to make it very clear to the people watching that I am not a hardcore competitive player. I don't play competitive as much as I used to. But the first year and a half, 2 years, I want to make this known, I did play a lot of tournaments. Builds, 0 builds. I think the most active that I was in the competitive scene was Chapter 4, Season 1 through Chapter 4, Season 3. That pocket of time I was playing the most competitive Fortnite I'd ever played, and I was having, I had the best results that I ever had as well. The best tournament my cousin and I did was like a 0 builds tournament. I think we placed 30th in duos.
Not bad.
Yeah, I've had some success. But once again, I'm not cracked out of my mind, nor do I pretend to be, okay? And right now, I'm a casual competitive player at most, but I want everybody to understand I do have some experience in the competitive realm. I've definitely played I played at least 50 competitive tournaments. Doesn't mean I did well in all of them, but I have some experience in the space. So I am not a competitive player currently, but I have competitive experience. With that being said, I do believe Rylick's a better player than me. I also believe that Rylick has more experience in this space than I do, and we've been playing for a comparable amount of time. So I do respect your opinion, but let's get into the meat of this. So explain to me, because you said this is the worst season that you've ever played. Explain to me what makes this the worst season ever, why you hate it, what's wrong with it.
The season itself, as a Fortnite season, is the issue. The gameplay of this season is somewhat enjoyable sometimes. If you guys enjoy this season and you enjoy playing it, it's not because it's an enjoyable season, it's good for the game or anything like that. It's you're enjoying it because it's crazy, it's chaotic, and you enjoy that, and that's fine. I just don't think that it should be infecting ranked. I don't think it should be infecting pubs either. I think what Epic Games needs to do is make a seasonal mode that's full of all the mythics, all the crazy stuff, because every time there's a new season, people always complain about the new stuff because it ruins the actual core gameplay. If they had a seasonal mode, like, I don't even know, a seasonal LTM, like last season, it would have just had all the mythics and all that crazy stuff. They should do that. I don't know. I feel like whenever they start adding stuff that infests the actual game, people don't want to play it. And like, if you're a competitive player, you're a pro player, tier 1 or something, this is your job. Like, you have to play this game constantly and maintain a very high skill level. And trying to adapt to this meta, which is designed to not really be adapted to, it sucks.
When you say that it's not designed to be adapted to, what does that mean?
I mean, obviously, whenever they change anything, you have to adapt to it. Usually, it's not that crazy because they don't typically change the fundamentals of the game, but they took the worst combat aspect in Fortnite. Like, there's tons of different ways of fighting people in Fortnite. You know, you got close range, you got build fights, you got box fights, you got long distance, you got sniper shots across the map. There's a lot of different ways to fight people in this game. The worst one of all time is vehicles. When you're sitting in a car, shooting somebody else in a car, right? It was kind of fun sometimes. Generally, it's terrible. People do not like fighting in cars. They decided to make it worse and then make the entire season based around that. If you're not playing this game in a car this season, you're going to lose. It's just how it is. They took the worst combat type in the game, vehicular combat, vehicular shooting, and made the entire season revolve around that. It's stupid.
Okay.
You just want OG back 24/7. That's not true. I actually don't.
Okay, so
believe it or not, I love OG Fortnite, but I don't think it should be 24/7.
So let me give you a bit of pushback on some of the things that you said. So one thing that I'm taking huge issue with is that people do not like fighting in cars. How did you come to the conclusion that people don't like fighting in cars?
Almost nobody ever fights in cars.
That is not true.
I've almost never seen people fighting in cars.
Have you ever watched Microwave play?
Who?
Microwave. He's not a competitive player. He's a content creator. Have you ever watched Microwave play? Microwave uses cars religiously in his gameplay style.
Never heard of him. Never seen his gameplay. I mainly watch competitive and like less, I guess, content streams and more like high skill like tournament style gameplay streams. That's more of what I watch for Fortnite.
I'm not disagreeing in the sense that like most people don't use vehicles for combat, but has Epic really ever given us a reason outside of Chapter 3 Season 2, which people were using vehicles for combat in that season? People
Wait,
don't.
you said chapter
3
what?
Season 2.
What season even? I
That's
remember
that was
chapter
that was the last
3.
that was the last live event we had before Fracture. That was the collision event. That's when tanks were added to the game. Like you have to.
I was away for a lot of like later chapter 3, so I don't even remember
That's the middle
that.
of Chapter 3 or the first half.
Middle of chapter 3. I played a ton of chapter 3 season 1,
Okay.
but I don't remember anything else about chapter 3. I don't remember
So
cars ever being a huge thing in the game.
So just so you know, they were vehicle play was huge. You're technically right in the sense that people when it's just your average vehicle, right? People are not using vehicles for gunplay, unless with a few exceptions, like I mentioned, Microwave, and maybe some other content creators or players that kind of like jumping in and out of vehicles. However,
Yeah.
when Epic gives us a reason to use vehicles are always a huge feature, a dominant feature of gameplay. Even in Chapter 2, Season 2, when they gave us helicopters were vital in gameplay during that season. So I
wouldn't
can't
say vital. I mean, I remember they were popular. I remember I have a clip of me killing an entire squad by myself because I was in a helicopter. I remember them being in the game, but they weren't like, it wasn't like all over. There wasn't 100 of them on the map, and you didn't have to have one to win. And they were easily counterable. The players that were sitting in a helicopter sat outside of it. It was super easy to shoot them. The cars this season, everyone's encased in an armored box. You have to shoot through the windshield to even do damage to them. But by that time, you're already dead. They've already hit you.
That's no difference than Chapter 3 Season 2, though.
So what was in Chapter 3 Season 2? Because I don't remember anything about that season.
The biggest vehicle that we had in Chapter 3 Season 2 were the tanks. The tanks had a giant turret on top, and of course a big cannon in the middle. However, they were very slow. The difference with the tanks, though, was that at the time we had weapons that were designed to counter the tanks. Like the heavy sniper, I think did like 600 damage. You had that lock-on rocket launcher that would lock onto the tanks when people were using them. Like there were a lot of good ways to counter the tanks, especially considering they were so slow. But
I vaguely remember the tanks. I don't remember for how long. Were they in for the whole season?
Pretty much, if I remember correctly. If not, I think they were first added in the first update. But this is the point that I'm trying to make. We can't say that people don't care about vehicle gameplay. We also can't say that vehicle gameplay is not a part of Fortnite's history. It's always been
about competitive.
It's always been weaved. So hold on a second, and this is what I want you to understand, because one of the things that you said was that this play pattern should not be in pubs and one of the reasons you gave is because people do not like vehicle gameplay. That I'm just saying historically that is not true. We like helicopters, we like tanks. When Epic gives us a reason to use vehicles, when there's purpose behind the vehicles, it genuinely makes gameplay more fun for a lot of people. We'll get to the competitive specific examples in a moment, but I need to make that clear because here's the thing, and this is something that I took note of and something that I think a lot of people on both sides don't realize. The players that are playing competitive and the people that are playing pubs are having two different experiences. What you were describing, some of the things that you're describing, is not how my friends or a lot of the content creators I know, or even casuals that aren't content creators, it's not the same experience you guys are having. People are saying that it's too much emphasis on vehicles, that people are only staying in vehicles the entire game. That is not true. I've had on this stream, I have clips of me jumping in and out of vehicles. There was one game, Loot Station and our car blew up. We jumped out of the car. We used the fists to rush another player. That knocked his vehicle off the hill. We got pushed by another team. We're shooting the team with just our weapons, no vehicle. We jump back into a car. Like, that's why I think a lot of casual players are enjoying the season, because the gameplay is so dynamic. There's a rhythm that I'm not seeing the competitive players use, where the casuals are, which is that your gameplay is being weaved in and out of vehicles. It's not just, of course, this season is definitely vehicle heavy. Like, the vehicles are the main way that people are playing and winning games because it's new, it's exciting, it's the new mechanic, everyone's enjoying it. But in casual lobbies, at least the ones that I've played in and some of my friends have played in, we're weaving in and out of vehicles. We're using the vehicles to our advantage to win the fights, but we're also jumping out of the vehicles when necessary to get an advantage over our opponents. It makes it so much more fun and exciting when you're doing both. Have you experienced that at all in any of the fights that you've had?
Not really. It's mainly just cars. I'm not sure if it's a difference in elo or a difference in NA Central versus NA West, because for those of y'all that don't know, I play NA Central, the server with all the tier 1 pros. Like just today, I was playing a few ranked games, and the first game we played, we were in a game with Man City Cold, FNCS winner from I think 2 seasons ago, plays with Acorn. The game after that, we were in a game with G Money. This is just a more competitive server, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen people hopping out as much. It's mainly just car combat. You
Right.
only really get out of a car when your car is destroyed, and you
Okay.
physically have to. And then people just take the hands and run away. And you said in the past, people love car combat when there's a reason for car combat and like vehicles, like the tanks and stuff. Sure. However, there's always a counter for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's not really a counter. People in your chat are
Right.
talking about the boom bow. That thing does like 200 damage to cars. I think the weakest car in the game right now has 1400 health. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you even get that thing half dead, you've already been run over.
Right.
Like there's really not a single good counter to fight
Now,
these cars except
this is
being in another car.
this is something that I think we can agree on, which is that I do think that things, and I disagreed with this a couple of days ago, but let's talk about this. I do think that there needs to be a rebalance of the meta right now because I do think that this season is a little too car heavy, even for the games where I'm playing. I think even if they just added like EMP grenades, that would kind of balance things out a little bit more, where it would force players to jump out of their vehicles because they were
Yeah.
unusable for a time. What do you? So you think that this meta shouldn't even exist within Fortnite? But what if Epic had have started off the season with thinking of counterbalances, a counter system for the vehicles? How would that have changed your perception on things, if at all?
I think if there was a couple decent counters, it might not be horrible. I think that it could be decent. I think my biggest issue is that this season doesn't feel like Fortnite. It feels like I'm playing Rocket League mixed with GTA mixed with some aspects of Fortnite. Like I think that the gameplay can be fun. The car combat, I will admit, sometimes it's really fun, but
Mhm.
it's not Fortnite. It should be a separate mode. It feels more like an LTM than the actual game of Fortnite. And in the past, when they've done stuff like this, like I think the most similar thing to this we've ever seen is Air Royale back in season 7. It was a mode where every team was in airplanes and you had to like fly through these rings in the sky to get better guns and shoot people. That was
Mhm.
so good because it wasn't the game, it was an LTM. If that was how pubs were, everyone would have been complaining the way they are now. So,
However, I think there's a big difference between planes and the vehicles or planes and cars, excuse me. With cars, there's a lot more variety that you can have. The planes were just kind of one thing, what they were, but the cars provide a different layer of depth that I just don't think the planes could, at least the way that those planes were designed, right?
what do you mean by that?
Those planes would have needed a more complex system. There would have had to been different types of planes, different types of weapon attachments for those planes, in order to give them this level of depth. Also, there's a big difference between fighting in the sky and fighting on the ground. With the vehicles, I would argue that there is a huge skill curve that's needed in order to be effective with them. Like, I think that's something that a lot of competitive players, I don't hear them talking about. Like, I'm hearing a lot of arguments of, oh, you don't have to be a skilled player in order to use vehicles, but that's not true. The bullet drop on the ARs for the car attachments, for example, you
Like the
have to
turret?
have. Say, I'm sorry, what?
You said like the turret? Like you're talking
Yeah,
about the bullet drop on
the
like the
turret, the
turret?
AR,
Oh
the
yeah.
machine gun turret. You actually have to have really good aim in order to be able to laser people with that. Unless of course, if you now I've seen some clips of some people standing still and getting absolutely shredded, sure. But when you're in a dogfight with another car, you guys are trying to one up each other. Someone's trying to get nitro. You got another person shooting. Like there is a huge skill curve when it comes to using these cars. But once again, Rylock, I think the difference, and because once again, you're saying that you're not experiencing any games where people are jumping in and out of vehicles using all the different.
It's
Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's mainly just car combat. Like there's
Right.
some points, like obviously the early game before anyone gets a car that has any attachments on it. The early game, I mean, it's just like any other early game. You land, you loot up, you try not to die, and then you hop in a car and you keep your car somewhere near one of those white boxes so that if you ever get shot, you can just refill the health of the car, which
Mhm.
I think that's crazy. Some cars automatically heal over time. I'm not even sure which ones, but I was in one last night and it just automatically healed itself. And it was just cars, cars, cars until literally the last team.
I think,
And
but
that it's just,
sorry.
I don't know. It's just it's really boring. I don't
Can
know. It's not fun.
I listen? I would agree if that's all I was experiencing, and a lot of other players were experiencing. I would agree with you. But let me ask you this question: Do you can we agree that the what you're experiencing and what I'm experiencing are probably two completely different games? Considering, well, one, I play zero builds, and two, you're playing builds. But on top of that, you're in far more competitive lobbies than I am.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably why we're experiencing different things here, and that's probably why casual players and competitive players, especially like on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen it, they're going at each other's throats right now.
Hmm.
It's crazy, and people don't realize that there's this thing called ELO, skill-based matchmaking. It doesn't just apply in ranked, it's not just in tournaments, it's in public matches too. If you don't have a lot of experience playing this game, you're probably going to be in a lot easier lobbies where people play a
Right.
lot differently. When you're in a higher up competitive lobby, especially on the most competitive server or most competitive region in the world, NA Central, it's ridiculous. The type of or the way that people play is very different.
Hmm. I I played one tournament on EU with my friend Mr. JOY. There were quite a few big competitive players in there. This was chapter 4. I think this was chapter 4 season 1. We were one of the players, I remember it was Malabuka. We were playing against him. There were a lot. I can't remember like the whole that's the only big name I can remember, but I will say, like, playing in that lobby with all those players, it was not the same game. It was way more intense, way more frustrating. I couldn't even land. I was getting shot out of the sky, but, before early game, just getting shit on because there was no way I was gonna be able to grab a gun. These guys were on it. So when you're playing at the level that you're at or even higher, right? Like it's it's not the same game. And I think that that's
Yeah.
where the discrepancy and the frustration is coming from and where competitives and casuals are not hearing each other. I don't think that this season's boring. I don't. But however, if you're focused and competitive players are always looking for ways to exploit and take advantage of metas, it does not surprise me that everyone's just sitting in vehicles running around, um, shooting each other. So, do
Yeah, I
you
mean,
go ahead?
sorry, go on.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that this season is mainly catered for hyper casual players and people that don't really play this game. The type of people that didn't even know there was a new season until one of their friends said, "Oh, hey, there's a new Fortnite season. You want to try it?" It seems to be like a season that's not for people who actually play this game all the time. It's not for the daily grinders or anything like that. It's for people that get on every couple weeks or every couple months and they're like, "Oh, I wonder if Fortnite's going to be any fun." The people that were really excited when No Build came out because they had a chance and people came back to the game. That's what this season feels like to me. It doesn't feel like it's made for people that actually play this game all the time and
Why do
want
you
to
say
see.
that?
It doesn't even feel like Fortnite, dude. It doesn't feel like Fortnite at all.
And see, I think it's another area where we disagree, right? Because there are a lot of people that I've seen in like they're casuals, but there are a lot of people
Yeah.
that play this game religiously that do like this meta. It does feel like Fortnite, but it's a what makes this exciting is that it's a spin that we've never had before, right?
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of people who play this game a lot, the daily grinder types that do like this season. I'm not saying that the season's only for people who don't play the game.
mhm.
I'm just saying that's how the season feels, like in terms of the gameplay. That's how it feels. For anybody in chat that didn't understand how I was putting that the first time, there you go.
Arksy
Oh,
with a
you're good.
$2 super chat. Cars are not bad if you compare them to mechs before the nerf. I would agree with that, actually. I think mechs were way worse. Cars actually take skill to use. Mechs do not take any skill.
I think
But
they're honestly very similar.
would you what and actually go ahead and explain that. In which ways are they similar? Because I've heard that a lot too from competitive
In
players.
I don't think that the actual like the mechs and the cars are actually like physically similar or similar to use, but I think the concept of how the game is played is very similar. People get into an overpowered vehicle and they walk around or drive around with these overpowered guns with infinite ammo, spraying and shooting at people and winning the game. That's how it's how it is. And there's way more cars on the map. You can actually customize the cars to be however you want. You get a G-Wagon,
Mhm.
you throw on the bulletproof tires, the mounted turret, and then the spiked bumper, and you're virtually unstoppable. You got over 2,000 health. The boom bolt's not going to do anything. No, regular player gun is going to do anything to your car. The only thing that will damage your car is other cars spraying you. Then you just drive away, you find one of the health boxes, and your car is full health again.
See, once again, I think there's such it's here's the issue. There's such a difference with what you experience and what my friends and I experience. We're not really having an issues with destroying vehicles or getting people out of vehicles, right? Like it is a challenge and it is tough, but you can do it. You can definitely do it even without another car. You can still do it, but your positioning has to be amazing. The other thing is too, I have to check my bias because I play mainly zero builds. I haven't played a lot of builds this season. And one of the games that I did, we used a car exclusively for the entire round and won, to be fair.
Yeah.
So builds didn't really equate to much. That's where I will give you I will give a point for the competitive players, right? I think it's here's the deal. I think this meta is less fun for builds, and this is where I think I take my issue with it, which is that like zero builds is what it is, right? We don't have the advantage of putting up a wall, so naturally we have to be thinking about our position more than the builds player would because we don't have the advantage of pulling up cover anytime at any point in time on the map, right? So we have to constantly
Yeah.
be knowing where we are in the map, where we're going, what mountains are around us, what POIs are around us, all of that. Builds
Yeah.
like I this is but let me get to the main point that I want to kind of dive into a little bit more with you that you just said, which is competitive or this doesn't feel like Fortnite. I don't know if it's so much that it doesn't feel like Fortnite. However, where I will give the competitive community and the build community some credit is that this really interferes with the core original concept of excuse me, the original core concept of Fortnite, which is building. Like it almost makes building useless in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was playing builds and zero builds. I was flipping back and forth.
Mhm.
Hardly noticed. After the early game, like in early game, if you loot a chest to get 30 wood, you can build a few walls, do something like that. After that point, when you first get into a car, it's like there's no difference. If you see
Mhm.
somebody up on a hill and they start building, it doesn't matter because you can just drive right through it. Your car doesn't even slow down. It just goes straight through. Then they fall. You know what I mean? Like it's virtually the same mode. This feels like those times in the past where Epic Games has tried to nerf building. The time in
Right.
season 10 when they added the extra delay between building. So it was like it removed turbo build pretty much. Like that's this season.
Do you remember
That's what it feels like.
Do you remember chapter 1 season 5 when it was like a crazy spray meta as well? That's what this
Oh,
really
yeah.
reminds me of. Like when that
Yeah.
season like they added the P90, they added
Yep.
the original combat SMG. Like you were just like Tifu, there was that clip of Tifu, he had 5 P90s in his
Yeah.
inventory was just shredding people.
Yeah.
The when the rocket launchers like one explosion, one rocket would destroy like 12 or 15 builds. Like
Yeah.
that was a crate like that. And once again, because at the time the only mode was builds, it made it unenjoyable to play as a builds player. So once again, from that standpoint, I totally agree and empathize with you. I think that there needs to be better counters to vehicles. I do think that there needs to be a bit of a nerf to them. However, the issue is once again, I think it's so weird because there's multiple angles you can look at this from, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It depends on it. It depends if you're a builds or a zero builds player, and then even within those brackets, are you a competitive builds or zero builds player or a casual? Like there's different qualifications to each one.
Yeah.
Look, I don't like the idea that Fortnite's core mechanic is basically useless. I don't like the idea that even building with metal is completely useless against some of these items in Fortnite, which once again, because I'm primarily a zero builds player now, I don't play builds as much anymore. I'm not experiencing that. That's why I'm saying like the fights that I'm having are different from you on two levels. One, I'm not building, and two, I'm not playing on a competitive level. I'm not playing with some of the best players in the world in my lobbies. So there's that's probably why in my lobbies there's more of a mix of normal gunplay and vehicle play, right?
Yeah.
There's weaving between the two. Let me ask you this question: If you were seeing more, if you were seeing more dynamic play between those two styles, between the normal gunplay and vehicular play, would you feel like that would be a more fun season?
Um I mean, honestly, yeah, I think it would be pretty cool. But the problem is this season is there's only honestly one reason to ever get out of a car. Kind of two. The first one that's not really like a reason, but it's if you knock someone. If you're playing duos, trios, squads, and you knock someone, you might hop out to go make sure that your kill is finished instead of letting them maybe get revived. The only real definitive reason to get out of a car is if your car is blowing up or is about to be blown up.
Mhm.
That's it. There's no other reason to get out of a car. I mean,
But
you have infinite ammo. You can just drive around to a health box. I don't think that there should be any health boxes on the map. I think if your car gets weak, that's it. Find a new car. That might balance it a lot. The fact that cars can virtually have infinite health, infinite ammo, like that's Epic Games knows what they're doing.
I
It's just not fun.
and so here's the deal, and this is where I disagree with you there, right? I don't have a problem with Fortnite switching. Like here's the deal: the traditional play style of gunplay, 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 always gunplay gets stale. Something like this to shake it up, where it's like, okay, your base level is you need a vehicle. Like you can play without a vehicle, and you can even potentially win. No, your lobbies, that's not going to be the case. Okay, so remember
Definitely not.
when
Yeah.
I'm yeah, your lobbies this is not an option. Okay, so remember we also need to be aware of our own biases here, right? But
Yeah.
from our perspective, from the average Fortnite player's perspective, right? You have a baseline. Okay, weapons, weapon attachments, weapon mods. I need to get as many of those as possible. Maybe a medallion to help my experience with the vehicle. Awesome. Now I'm coming across other players. There's this war of attrition between me and other and other Fortnite players to see who can destroy the other person's vehicle first. Once that's finished, then it's a fight to see, okay, can that, if I destroy their car, can they survive? How low is my vehicle? Because I've also been in fights where even if I destroy somebody else's vehicle, my vehicle's low. They blow up my vehicle. So now we're in a normal gunfight, right? Also, my HP's down a little bit because I was just in a car that blew up. So now I'm down like 50, 60 HP. So
Yeah.
in that way, like once again, I don't see a problem with it because my fights are varied. My fights are dynamic. I like the fact that, okay, I'm in a vehicle, which is something that you've given me a reason to be in a car now. You've given me a new purpose to use it. And what I think is genius that they did is that it's fun to just be the driver or the gunner. Either one is equally as fun. Being able
Yeah.
to try to outmaneuver another person in a car, just even blowing up their car with by yours having a cow catcher and speeding through them, timing the nitro at the right time, your homies in the gunner seat shooting the other vehicle down, a third car pulls up on you, just like this chaos and trying to see who can. It's a chess match, just like a build fight would be a chess match, right? It's a
Yeah.
chess match to see who can destroy the other person's vehicle first, and then it comes down to who's got the better gunplay afterwards. You get the best of both worlds. But
Oh, I
remember,
wish it was like that, man. I really
right?
do.
But for you, and that's what hurts me, bro. Because I get where you don't get that, and that's what people need to understand. That's the disparity. Depending on how good you are and what lobbies you're playing in, it's gonna make a big difference in how you experience this season. What I
Yeah.
just told you is how me and a lot of the people that I know are experiencing this season. That's why it still feels like Fortnite to us. But to
Yeah.
you, playing, and here's another thing too, right? What I just described, that's I feel like this concept is better for zero builds than it is builds. I'm going to be totally honest.
I
I think
fully
for
agree.
I think for zero builds players, that you're having the time of your life right now. But if you're primarily a builds player, this sucks. But I also think that ties into like we've seen. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's been a trend where zero builds is actually outpacing builds in the amount of average players, the concurrent players that it's getting. Have
Yeah, it
you?
makes sense. I've
Yeah.
noticed that as well.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because zero builds appeals to a much, much larger audience of people. Because the way to be good at builds is to play builds a lot. If you don't play builds for a year and you come back, you're going to be a lot worse.
Right.
If you don't play zero build, I mean, it's the same thing as playing Call of Duty or any other shooter game. There's not like so much a mechanical aspect. It's more just about your aim. And so zero builds applies to the people that work a 9 to 5 and they come home and they want to play a battle royale game. You know, they want to play Fortnite but don't want to get, full piece 200, piece controlled, all that. It appeals to way more people. I mean, I don't even care if battle royale had 100,000 players and zero build would have 1 million players. That's great because that means that 1 million players have a much more fun way to play Fortnite for them.
Right. But now that you admit that, can you will you at least concede the point that this does feel like Fortnite for a lot of people, and that ultimately what it comes down to is the kind of lobbies and also the game type that you're playing?
I wouldn't say it feels like Fortnite. It feels like another game. I mean, whether or not you're playing builds or zero builds, I think is irrelevant. It's so different from the normal way of playing the game. that it's incredibly different. And even if you are a build player, I just saw somebody talk about this in the chat. I was going to bring it up anyways. But even if you, were to get out of a car, you get someone's car low, they get your car low, like you were saying a minute ago.
Hmm.
If you get out and you want to see whose gunplay is better and you're playing builds, someone's going to pop a nitro and walk through your walls.
Right.
Building is almost pointless. If they don't do that, they're going to use the fists and they're going to break into your box and they're going to punch you to death. You've probably seen the clips of Clicks and Booga fighting somebody, and then some kid with the fists pulls up and just bangs through the walls and
Hmm.
punches you to death. You can't do anything about it. And also, this season, since it's all about cars, cars are fast. If you're in a fight with somebody, a car is going to come and third party you.
Hmm.
There's no such thing anymore as just fighting one person. If you're playing solos, you're not playing solos, you're playing solo squads,
Hmm.
because every time you get into a fight that lasts longer than 10 seconds, you're going to be third partied.
Hold on. Caught a couple donations from Nightly Cord. Nightly Cord, real quick. I saw your last. Thank you for the 200 biddies, bro. I saw the last one. Sham. I still have PTSD from Mex, and that was long ago. Also said, no, it feels like Fortnite for casual everyday players. It's just going against the routines and metas that the pros who grind the same pattern out use. And I think that I actually have to agree with Nightly Cord on that one. That's where I think it's like the big difference is. But we can tie back into that. I want to kind of get back to what you were saying. Did I cut you off? Please continue with what you were saying. I actually forgot the point
I
that you were
think
just.
that's it. I
Oh,
was
you
just
were.
basically saying that even if you do fight somebody not in a car, you're going to be third partied. This is a very
Hmm.
anti-building season.
Hmm.
People are going to walk through your walls with nitro. They're going to punch through your walls with fists. It
Right.
doesn't matter if you're a better builder. It doesn't matter if you know piece control, because someone can pop a nitro and walk out of the box. It doesn't matter if you piece control somebody and you're about to edit and kill them. You're
So,
going to get third partied by a car. When the entire season is centered around a very, very fast way of moving around the map, you're just going to get third partied. If your fight lasts longer than a few seconds, you're going to get third partied. I can't
so
think of the last time this season when I have just fought one other car. Another
mhm.
car pulls up. Another car pulls up. When one car gets low, they sneak away to go get a health box and then come back. It's usually 4 or 5 cars going at it. There's no such thing as just a one-on-one fight anymore.
I mean, if I'm being totally honest with you, it's for me. It's been like that anyway. Like, a lot of my, especially
Yeah.
if I'm playing competitive builds, I remember, what was it? Chapter 4, seasons 1 and 2, and I was playing competitive builds. I was with my cousin and I. We were grinding champs, um, or Unreal, excuse me. We One of the things that pissed us off was that there was no siphon, and we couldn't deal with the third parties. It was third
Yeah.
party after third party. That's not exclusive to this season. With all due respect, like but I get what you're saying. It feels different because it's vehicles, but that's the nature of competitive Fortnite anyway. The moment somebody hears a fight, you're just like, okay, we need to push that. We can third this, but normally when you get there, you might be fifth partying by that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now with vehicles, it makes the gameplay more fast paced. The real quick,
Yeah.
let's backtrack a little bit. The reason why you're making this point is because you're saying it doesn't feel like competitive, or sorry, not competitive. It doesn't feel like Fortnite.
Yeah.
I have to respectfully disagree with that point. I don't think it's so much that it doesn't, like. Okay, let me ask you this question before I get into that. In your opinion, what is Fortnite? If that's true, if you don't think that this is Fortnite, what is Fortnite?
Again, another very loaded question. I could go on, but I'm going to try and keep it simple. I think Fortnite is a game. We got players running around with guns. I mean, the guns might be crazy, the items might be crazy. You're running around, you're either building or not building if you're playing no build, and that's Fortnite. When you change the way you fundamentally play the game, it doesn't feel like Fortnite anymore. It was the same thing with the mechs. It was the same thing whenever they've added some crazy overpowered item that overtakes the meta. Like, Fortnite is a game that I think is so cool because you choose how you play it. There's always multiple SMGs in the game. If you want to have the full auto SMG, it's like the MP5, whatever it is in the game right now. The full auto one, you can. If you want to have the burst, you can. There's like 4 different shotguns in the game, depending on your play style. It works. But this season, they've removed the variety in how you play the game, and they made it so that you pretty much have to have a car. The higher level you are in the game, you have to have a car more and more. They've removed the variety, the choice to play how you want to play the game.
See, okay, and so
And for
once
me,
again,
that makes it not like Fortnite. When you have to play a certain way, it's like in Call of Duty. When one certain gun is the meta gun and everyone's using that gun, it removes the variety. The new Call of Duty games have like 30 different ARs you can use, but only one of them's the meta one.
but
It's
wait,
not fun when you
how is
have
that
to use a
how is
certain
that any
thing.
different than Chapter 4, Season 3? or chapter 4
4
season 2.
What was in
When
chapter 4 season 2?
when when I was playing competitive, when I was playing tournaments, there was not a single person that rocked a Havoc AR. You'd be an idiot to rock a Havoc AR. The only AR anybody ever used was the red dot.
That's a bit different, I think.
Why?
If it's just
You're
one
if you're
gun.
hold on a second. If your argument is that 80 time epic adds in one item or one weapon that's completely meta, and that's the thing that you're forced to use, it doesn't feel like Fortnite. Well, this is not the first time we've had that. There's been multiple times where we've had that. And
It's a bit different because it's a meta AR. It's not just how you play the game. Right now, the way that you play the game is reduced to one method.
Hold on a second.
Like one weapon. Like in the past,
it is how. Hold on a second. It is how you play the game, because every single person that's using that AR is typically in longer range fights, because they know they can just pick off players out in the open with that AR, because it just beams people. There's no variety in terms of how the gun. That was one of the biggest issues that people had with Chapter 4 as a whole. The gunplay was very limited. I think
Chapter 4 sucked. There wasn't enough variety. I fully agree with that.
I'm just gonna be honest with you. I love Chapter 4.
I think the map sucked. I think the POIs sucked. I think the only good thing to come out of Chapter 4 was pre-nerf what was it called? The Havoc shotgun. The one that they had Mythic for a while. That one, I think that was the only good thing to come out of that season. That was a pretty good pump shotgun. I think most of the times they dropped the ball. That was the best thing. I think the map sucked. The POIs sucked. The tournaments that season kind of just sucked. It wasn't a great chapter. In my opinion, it was bad.
Once
that's
again,
just me though.
Right.
People disagree. That's fine.
Right. And once again, I think that's another. Here's the thing. I'm starting to understand the mindset of competitive players a bit more, because the way that you guys look at Fortnite is, with all due respect, it's a bit more rigid. And I think that this is where a lot of the disconnect comes between competitive and casual players.
Yeah.
When you say that this isn't Fortnite, because, so first of all, there's a few things you said that I found very interesting. One thing you said was that it doesn't feel like Fortnite when they add these broken, overpowered items that are clearly designed to be the meta. Am I correct in you saying with that assessment of what you said?
Kind of. I mean, that's why I think it's different. But like with the AR, if there's one AR that's better than other ARs, that's fine. You still generally play the game the same way. Like, yes, the AR makes your AR fights a little bit different, but the game is still generally played the same. You rotate the same, you build the same. It's the same general game. It just slightly changes your different fights. I mean, that's all guns. There's always going to be variety in how you play.
Right.
That's the whole point of using different guns.
But
when you change the fundamentals of how the game is played from a boots on the ground, rotating across the map, picking dead sides, building certain boxes here, playing the game that way, the way that people have been used to playing the game for more than half a decade at this point, and saying, okay, well, all of that skill, all of that knowledge doesn't matter. Get in a car, have fun, good luck. It's fun for, not playing Fortnite. It should be an LTM. It's just not fun for competitive. No one who's spent the last 6 years getting good at this game wants to play this season.
That's not. But hold on, hang on a second. You be careful with those absolute statements, because that's not true. I've had competitive players that have been playing for 5 years tell me that they love this season. You can't say that. They're not content creators, but they're just people that comment on my videos. There are people that play this game, that have played this game for a long time. So hold on a second. I would be one of those people. Does my opinion not count because I'm just currently not playing competitive Fortnite? You think I'm the only person that has competitive experience, that's played this game for 7 years since the game came out, that enjoys this meta, that feels like it's Fortnite? To make those absolutist statements, or I think you're speaking from the standpoint of a hardcore competitive player, which I would agree that the majority of you guys do not like this meta, because the lobbies and the way that you guys play sucks. It's boring. It is completely boring. But you've even admitted in this conversation that the types of fights that I'm having are nothing like what you're experiencing. Another thing you pointed out that was very interesting, you said there's no variety in play style. I'm just telling you right now, bro, from the casual standpoint, there's tons of variety. Sure, okay, I've got a vehicle. I'm going to use a vehicle the majority of the time, absolutely. But if I don't want to use a vehicle, them gauntlets, some shockwaves, a good combat shotgun, right? Maybe getting a couple of those medallions. I could play that way. Maybe I don't have any medallions to play with, right? Maybe I've just got the gauntlets, a good AR, a good shotgun, and then some nitro canisters, right? I can play that way. Like there's there is here's the deal. I understand from a competitive standpoint, it's very rigid because your guys' focus is always to just it's about winning. It's about getting your prize earnings. It has to be more rigid because you're trying to figure out the best method for clapping cheeks in competitive, right? Can we agree on that?
Um, there's a lot of things you said in there.
Well,
Saying I agree means I agree with all.
hang on, let me be more specific. When it comes to competitive players, do you
Mhm.
agree that the main focus of you guys is to find a particular meta and abuse it to its fullest ability? That way, you can win the match. Can we agree with that? That's how the mindset of competitive players.
I honestly hate that mindset, but it is true. That's how that's how
Okay.
Peterbot won the last
So,
FNCS.
so real quick. With that being said, the difference between what you guys do and what the casual players do, we're constantly experimenting and trying different play styles because if we die, it doesn't matter. There's no money on the line. That's the
Yeah.
difference. So you're not seeing the variety of the season because you can't. You have to play a specific way in order to be effective. We don't have to do that. But there's a lot more variation in skill level between the types of people that we're running into. There's gonna be
Yep.
there's gonna be people that are cracked out of their mind that jump into my lobbies from time to time. There's also gonna be literal bots in my lobby, and then sometimes there's gonna be a lobby that leans more to one or the other, right? But there's always gonna be a better mix in my lobbies than in yours. You're literally, especially in builds, you're literally playing FNCS Grand Finals every fucking round. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, every pub. I mean, there are a lot of AI like player bots in even pub games. I play a lot of pubs. I won like 130 something games in pubs last season just because it was fun last season in pubs.
Mhm.
But it's either AI bots or people that think that they are actually going to win FNCS next season.
Mhm.
There's just a huge discrepancy in the types of lobbies that we play in. And something that all of your chat needs to understand is that even though we're all playing a game called Fortnite, the experience that we all have in this game is so vastly different. And Epic
It is.
Games has designed it that way. So if I'm complaining about something that I see in game and you don't see it that way, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong and that you're right. We can both be right. We experience different things in the same game.
Right. Both things. And that, once again, that's what I'm actually trying to get across to you. I understand why, from your perspective, this doesn't feel like Fortnite. You're not seeing the
Yeah.
variety. But I think, I think there's another thing you have to understand. The vast majority of players are not competitive. We can also agree on that, right?
Honestly, I don't think there's any way to know because I think that being competitive is a mindset as long as how people play the game.
Hold on. I don't mean from a more philosophical standpoint. I'm talking about the people that participate in tournaments that play competitively. There's far less of those people than there are casual people that just like to play pubs. That exclusively play pubs. I think we can agree on that because the numbers show that. If I go down right now, I guarantee you between normal builds and zero builds, there's far more people play. Yeah, there's damn near 1,000,000 people. There's about 770,000 people between those two modes. And then when you look at competitive, competitive is actually doing pretty well. Where is it? Did I just pass it? What am I doing? Oh, rank zero build. Yeah, they're not even. They don't even have half as many players. Rank zero build and rank build collectively has little over 220,000. So
Yeah.
they're like you see what I'm saying? Like there's more casuals than there are competitive players. And I'll add another caveat to that. Competitive players that play at your level, there's even far less.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. I mean, it's also kind of weird because something that kind of shocked me happened recently at the end of, or not end, like towards the end of last season. There was some like solo victory cup or duos cash cup. I forget what it was. It was just like some random seasonal tournament they do. Somebody on my friends list, him and his duo were in like 170,000th place
Mhm.
in some random tournament. That there was like probably 200,000 teams playing
Mhm.
this tournament. I was like, that's a lot. Like, I think a lot of people play this game competitively, but not like seriously competitively, if that makes sense. So it
Right.
is less simple than just more competitive than non-competitive. I mean, I think that a lot of people play competitive a lot, but
Mhm.
not a lot of them are very good at it
But
or like
even looking at those numbers, right? There's that's a huge discrepancy between the numbers that we're even seeing now with who's playing pubs. 170,000 to 800,000. I mean, you're talking triple, more than triple the numbers.
Wait, what does it say for you for how many people are playing each?
Pubs, we were looking at 423,000 in zero build, 355,000 in battle royale.
Okay, yeah, because for me it says 360 for Battle Royale and 430 for Zero Build. I'm
Okay.
actually kind of surprised there's that many people playing builds right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very surprised about that.
But you see what I'm saying? Like even by those tournament numbers, like there's just objectively, there's just far less people that are playing competitively at any serious level than there
Oh,
would be people
absolutely,
playing.
yeah.
So what I'm getting at is I understand where you're coming from, and I empathize with your position and the position of people in the competitive community. But we do need to understand that the vast majority of players are coming from a casual standpoint. There are a lot of casual players. Now, when you're talking about a competitive mindset, that's a slightly different conversation. I have a competitive mindset.
Yeah.
I loved playing competitive Fortnite, but I also love just being competitive. I like winning. Okay, I don't like losing. I don't like getting my cheeks clapped in pubs. All right,
Same. Yeah, I agree.
it's so like my everyone in my family is competitive. That's just how we are. So I
Yeah.
understand that. But when I'm saying competitive Fortnite, I'm talking about more from a from a more rigid narrative, from a more rigid definition, I guess. Once again, the whole reason why we're talking about this is I don't think it's an issue of it not feeling like Fortnite. One of the things you brought up is that Fortnite has, over the years, has brought in many broken items, brought in many overpowered items. Here's the thing, and this is why I said the competitive definition of Fortnite is very rigid. I think competitive Fortnite should typically be one thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that can kind of stay in a box. But when you're talking about Fortnite as a whole and what the game is, that's constantly evolving. If you wanted to be really specific and get just like really into the weeds of it, you could say the battle royale isn't true Fortnite. You could argue that it's save the world, right? So
Yeah.
we have to be careful when we're saying that this doesn't feel like Fortnite because Fortnite over the years has taken so many forms. It's constantly evolving. It's going to keep
Yeah.
evolving to something else. But I understand what you're saying. But look, specifically, even within the context of battle royale, Fortnite is changing. I remember when they added the Kamehameha. Okay, everyone's favorite Dragon Ball mythic. Okay, shout out
Yep.
Dagwami.
Call me a
That
mommy.
that
Whatever the fuck you called it.
that's bro. Yeah, that's not even that's not a shooter mechanic. I look before Fortnite. I was playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Dragon Ball Fighter. I was a hardcore Dragon Ball Z player. Okay, I love playing Dragon Ball games. The fact that you put a Kamehameha in Fortnite, this is a shooter game. What are we putting superpowers in video games for? Before that, Marvel season, you got Marvel superpowers, you got the Hulk smash, you got Tony Stark's laser weapon, all that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it's I think we need to understand like there are just some things like if Fortnite wants to adapt or adjust a meta, I don't think it doesn't make it not any less Fortnite. It's just a different way of play. I think this is what I would say. Fortnite definitively as a battle royale, it's it's a game where you load onto an island, you collect different items of what depending on what the season's theme is of various types, right? Some of them are going to be there's going to be some goofy ass item regardless of what the season theme is, right? They're going to have something
Yeah.
that's absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes it's going to be something insanely broken, like a Hulk fist or a Doom fist or a Kamehameha or whatever, right? Sometimes you can have superpowers and have that as part of the meta. Sometimes it'll be something like the Scar, heavy sniper, whatever, right? Railgun from chapter 2 season 7. The meta can take different forms. There's not just one version of Fortnite. However, I will say
Yeah.
this, and this is where I think you've changed my opinion from talking to you. I do see the value in separating the loot pools. I disagreed with that before, but I do see the value in changing the loot pools because I don't think it's fair to the competitive players as a whole to make them participate in a meta that fundamentally breaks the original gameplay pattern of what Fortnite is. And I think
I
that's
agree.
really
Yeah.
where you're coming from, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against people playing the game like this. Like, I think some of the car combat, I'm not gonna lie, I think that sometimes it is pretty fun. Also, you should mod me. There's a guy spamming the N word in your chat. I could
Wait,
ban him real quick if you
wait,
mod
hold
me.
on.
Anyway,
Hang on, on which chat on YouTube or?
yeah, YouTube chat. Yeah, he's just been typing whole paragraphs of the hard R.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Whatever. TS Tricky, if you guys are here, please handle that.
Yeah,
they might have got
he
on.
hasn't been banned. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the car combat, it's fun for what it is, but it's not what I want to play. I want to play traditional Fortnite battle royale feeling battle royale. The
Mhm.
car combat, I'm not saying it needs to be removed. I'm not saying that casual players need to stop having fun with it. I'm saying it should be, I think, a separate mode. Because if it was a separate mode, then I could hop in and play that, have some fun with that, and then be like, okay, I want to go play ranked. I want to get my rank up, and I want to enjoy the game as it's meant to be played. Not like this. I
Hold
don't
on a
want this to
second.
be the only thing I can play.
Be careful when you say the way the game's meant to be played because that's
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. You're right.
I
You're right.
get, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Fortnite's tradition, like let's. I think let's agree on this, and this will be our baseline, right? Fortnite should never introduce a mechanic to competitive that ruins the core original feature that made the game possible or popular, which is building.
Yeah.
They should never destroy like the integrity of builds should always be a priority. We should never make it useless to build in normal battle royale. I think that's a mistake.
Fully agree.
Cool.
I think
So
that
go
like
ahead.
I don't even know why they would bother trying to adjust building because if people don't like building, they can just go play no build. Like the game is really honestly very well catered for zero build players. If they
Hmm.
don't like building, they should be able to go play zero build. If you're playing builds, expect people to build. If you don't want that, play zero build. The fact that they keep doing stuff to nerf building is so pointless. Like generally when it comes to how the game is played from a player perspective, building has been unchanged since the very beginning. You've always had the same wall, floor, ramp, cone. It's never changed because I think it's honestly kind of a perfect system.
Hmm.
And every time they try and nerf it, it's just like no one likes it.
It
Like
makes the
we're
game less
build players.
enjoyable, yeah, from a
We
build
expect
standpoint.
I mean, it sort of made sense back in the day before zero build existed because trying to balance it, like I think that's why the spray meta existed, is
Right.
because some people were really bad at building and some people were really good at building. There was a huge skill discrepancy between, you know, consistent players and non-consistent players. People who played the game all day learned how to build, and the players who didn't. But nowadays, if you don't like building, you're not good at it. You don't have to play it. You can play the same game without building.
Right.
The fact that they just keep trying to nerf building for build players is it's so stupid and pointless.
Let me kind of round things to its ultimate conclusion here. Because I can't believe an hour has already gone by. This has just flown.
Holy
I've
shit,
enjoyed every
wow.
second of this conversation. It's been awesome. But
Yeah.
I think this is the most important point that people need to understand. I I understand where the competitive community is coming from, especially after some of the clips that I saw today of some of the wild shit that was happening in in build lobbies. Like people using the nitro. I think the nitro is more of a problem than the cars. Like being able to just run through someone's build, break a wall, even if they're using metal, push them back into storm, shoot them, do damage. Like just from bumping, just shoulder checking them is insanity. That just there's no point to put up a wall. There's no
Yeah.
point to build in a meta like that. And when you've got these crazy competitive lobbies where you've got like 30 plus players all in a small zone, storms closing in, you got people on top of each other, people below you, people to your left, people to your right, and there's one or two jackasses running around with nitro just busting through everybody's walls, knocking them in storm. That's not that's not competitive.
Yeah, you
That's
got the cars, then you got the fists, then you got the nitro. It's like there's no
mhm.
point to building. Like building has already had an issue for a long time where people can shoot you through your walls. People can phase into your box. Phase is called, exploiting. You put the ramp and you jump into someone's box. All of that has already been a problem for a very, very long time, especially for people that are not on zero ping.
Mhm.
Now you have the cars. It treats builds like they aren't even there. You have the fist, which can just punch right through. You have the nitro, lets you walking right through. It's like, what is the point of even building? I think that's part of the
Right.
reason that Zero Build has so many more players. Because the first night that this season came out, I was playing Zero Build with Booga's dad. We were just like playing ranked just for fun in Zero Build, and Zero Build had like less than 200,000 players, or no, it was I think 300,000 players about, and then regular battle royale builds had like less than 80,000 at like
Mhm.
8 p.m. on the new season day. Like
Mhm.
nobody was playing builds because there was no reason to.
Right. I
Like it's insane.
Here's my thing. I want to say this. I disagree with the idea that these items, this new play style, shouldn't be in builds, or shouldn't be in pubs in general for builds or zero builds. Uh, I think I think there's two things that should happen, and Epic should pay attention to moving forward. The first is I think that they shouldn't like if these items didn't just completely destroy the building mechanic. I think that the competitive players would have a far less of a complaint with them, right? Like if it took me like 2 or 3 hits to break into someone's build with the gauntlets, right?
Hmm.
Or if nitro, maybe depending on the mat type, right? Like maybe I can bust through if I get enough momentum with the nitro for like a wood build. Brick, I might crack do damage to the brick and then I have to ram twice.
Yeah,
Metal, like I just there's just no way I'm breaking in with nitro. That I think would be better.
I
Similar
agree.
system with the fists. Vehicles, just giving people better ways to counter the vehicles so they're not as overpowered. Maybe making metal more resistant to vehicles being able to destroy them, I think would be better as well. If Epic had to put more care and thought into the build mechanic, I think that would be better, and it would be more fun to have because let's say sometimes I like playing builds, right? I think for me personally, it would be more fun if I had more of a challenge, like breaking through somebody's box just because I've got Nitro or Doomfist isn't fun, right? I like the challenge of
Yeah.
like, okay, how am I going to be able to break into this person's box? Can I use these fists in a way to where I'm going to make them lose mats, right? Um, just more of that strategy element. And I feel like a lot of the strategy element is lost, but balancing that out, I think, would be better than just completely not like having it as a separate mode or an LTM. This is the theme of the season. I think the theme of the season is good. I think these items are good. I think they're fun, but the problem is they're just not balanced. And I also think that like outside of that, for competitive as a whole, I think that these items should just be completely removed from competitive. Most of them. I think maybe if you had the Doom gauntlets in competitive, that would be fine if they were balanced like we were talking about. No cars,
Yeah.
no nitro, right? Just maybe have the Doomfist, whatever new weapons we get. I think that would be better for competitive players because the Doomfists are cool. They're not just good for fights; they're also cool for rotation. But the problem is, like at close range, the fists are better to use than a shotgun, and I hate that. I think the shotgun meta is still probably the worst meta that we've ever had in Fortnite history. I'm not a big fan of the shotgun meta. And shotguns, in my opinion, are like the core of Fortnite, whether it's pubs, competitive, whatever. Like good shotgun play and building mechanics are at the core of what Fortnite is, and the integrity of that needs to be maintained. And I think that's something that has not been very well kept this chapter as a whole. But do you have any thoughts on anything I just said there?
No, I think you're pretty much right on the money. I pretty much agree with everything you just said right there.
Cool,
Someone
bro.
in chat said, "Bro left this Ferget speechless." I don't know what that means, but
Okay.
I wasn't speechless. It's called listening, bro.
No, bro. Listen, chat. Here's the deal. Okay, we on this channel we have some of the most interesting. We have no fuck that. We have the most interesting conversations in the Fortnite community. Okay, we
True, true,
bring on
true,
people
yeah.
that we don't agree with because we all, in order to grow as a person and to get a better understanding, instead of just being like, oh, the competitive players just fucking want fuck them. Like instead of doing that, or from the opposite end of the spectrum, being like, it's only shit players that like this meta and good players hate it. Neither one of those things are true. Those are two extremes that I've heard on both sides, and they're both very narrow-minded and stupid, right? There is
Yeah.
a reason why people feel the way that they do, and it's important to unpack that. That's what we do on this channel. So, Riley, I appreciate you jumping on, man, and being just so forthcoming and having this conversation. I think this dialogue is very important for the
Yeah, I
community,
agree.
and I respect your position, bro. I know we disagree on stuff, but I honestly think like there's a good middle ground that we reach. And
Yeah.
I really respect your opinion, man. When you said you didn't like this season, it kind of broke my heart. I'm like, oh, I wonder have as much fun as I'm having. That sucks. So
Yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to it. I was like, oh man, all of this Fallout stuff, they kind of debated everyone. We thought, oh, it's going to be a Fallout season. And then it ends up being a Mad Max season with Nuka-Cola and the T60 skin in the item shop. And that's kind of, or Battle Pass, I mean. That's
Yeah.
kind of all it was.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of baited us with that, but. Yeah.
This isn't what I expected it to be, but like I said, I'm enjoying it. But is what it is. Do you want to plug some of your content, plug your channel, tell people what you do and all that?
Well, my name on Twitch, I stream there sometimes. I'm a certified part-timer. I stream on Twitch sometimes, same name. Make YouTube videos, same name. Most of y'all probably already have seen my shit around. I think that's pretty much it.
Well, this is a W conversation, but I would like to play the worst Fortnite season in history with you if you're down to run a few rounds.